Hey everyone, this is Karen with Creative Paper Artisan. Welcome to my channel. I've been made aware of the fact that there are not very many tutorials that really just kind of go over the very basics of junk journaling and how someone can get started. And so I decided to just kind of go over my process. Everyone does it differently. There is not a right way or a wrong way. But I would love to share with you kind of the things that I've learned along the way. And it's true, when I was just kind of discovering the world of junk journaling, I didn't know a lot of the lingo and the tips and the tricks. So I'm just going to try to do the best I can to just kind of help you become familiar with some of just the real basics. It's a learning process. You'll never know it all. That's why all these other tutorials exist, because there's always so many fun things and new things that people come up with. And just there's so much to learn. But the very, very basics, I'm going to go over my tips and tricks and kind of my version of it all. So hopefully you'll find that helpful. Okay. So first of all, when you decide to make a journal, you can start with the cover first or with the signatures first. And I tend to like to start with the signatures first. I'm not sure why. I feel like I want to start with the innards, and then that will kind of inspire how I do the cover. Because once you do the cover, then you're kind of limited to what you can do on the inside. So let me first of all tell you what a signature is in case you don't know. So a signature, and these are just coffee dyed papers. I actually have a video on how to coffee dye paper if you are not familiar with that yet. I can put a link to that below as well. So a signature, basically, I just love the sound of that. Love it. And it smells good too. Can you smell it? I wish you could smell it. It smells really good. Okay. So basically, anytime you've got your papers folded up, like this is a signature. That's it. And usually a signature, depending on how thick of a journal you want to make, I would say one signature, a comfortable thickness. Let's see, this is 3. I think you could really do 10 pages. And then of course, fold it in half. That gives you 20 actual pages like this. I tend to kind of prefer like six papers, and then you fold them in half, and that makes 12 pages. But whatever thickness you want is completely up to you. And if you do many more pages than 10, you're going to see that the pages kind of shift, and it kind of what am I trying to say here? Kind of comes to a point, and you're probably going to want to like trim it all off so that they're a little bit more even. Again, your preference, but you can use coffee dyed paper. You can use just regular paper. You can use digital kits, which are my favorites. And I'm actually going to be working with this kit, which is actually one of my the first kit I designed digitally, and called French Cottage Rose. It's a smaller kit because, like I said, it was the first one I ever did. I was still kind of learning and experimenting with digital design. And so all of my kits after this one are quite a bit bigger. But this is actually a really good beginner's kit. There's not too much to overwhelm you. It's all just the good basics there. So I'll go over this with you in just a minute. But just in a nutshell, you can see I printed on each side, and these, what I like to do is kind of intersperse digital designed kits with the coffee stain paper, kind of like every other one, or, what have you. But you certainly don't have to. Some people take junk journaling very literally, and they will use, magazine pages, old envelopes, old book pages, which I like to use too. I'm actually going to grab, here we go. This is a book that I've been tearing pages out of for a while. And this is just, for the looks of it. So here's an idea. You can cut it out to make the edge there more even, or just leave it like this. I tend to like rough edges myself. So you can just add this into a signature, like so. And then, when you're turning the page and you have a neat little thing, you can embellish that and decorate that. And yeah, the options are literally endless. You can have so much fun creating and just being creative. So that's a signature. So I hope that makes sense. And then if you want to make a really thick book, which I wouldn't recommend as a beginner, but a lot of the thick books are multiple signatures, like maybe even 3 or 4 bundles like this. And it ends up being like this thick, which is pretty fantastic too. But we're just going to keep it simple. Don't want to overwhelm you because it can be very easy to get overwhelmed. I totally get that. So I'm going to move on to the printed pages. Again, you don't have to use printed pages when you're doing a digital kit. You can literally use, or not when you're doing a journal, you can literally use just what you have on hand. That is a true junk journal. I do tend to like the pretty papers, which I guess would be more considered kind of like an art journal. To me, it's a little bit more artsy, a little more artistic, and not just a very, very literal junk journal. But again, completely your preference. If you do like to use digital kits and you want to, you can print them just single-sided, but then just keep in mind, on the other side is going to be white, so you're going to want to somehow embellish it. You can use inks like this, and just kind of get it smudged, kind of make a pattern with it. You can use sprays. Let me see here. I've got some sprays somewhere. Okay. Yeah. Tim Holtz has a humongous variety of inks that are just beautiful. Colors of every color in the rainbow. And what I've done before too is, just take some of the beautiful colors. This is brown. Probably wouldn't be the best. Here's like a pretty blue or what have you, and just like spray, and it leaves like little splotches, and you can just play with it. If you wanted to leave one side white and then maybe decorate it however you want in that way. I do tend to like to print the journal pages double-sided. So one tip that if you are going to do the double-sided printing, I would definitely use 28-pound paper, because it's a little bit thicker. And when you print, it's not going to, the design from the other side isn't going to just show through. I think it looks a little bit more quality. So 28-pound paper, I would recommend for double printing or double-sided printing. When you buy kits, there's usually, there's ephemera, which ephemera is basically, literally ephemera is like old vintage receipts, old vintage tags, pretty much any kind of old vintage paper of some sort, library card, or oh gosh, what did I say? Tickets, that sort of thing. But in the world of junk journaling, you will hear ephemera. You'll use that word for pretty much anything like this. Now, obviously, this is not vintage because I just designed it. It's contemporary, although I did use vintage images and vintage typography, which is gorgeous French typography here. But, you know, this is like a sheet of ephemera. So we've got tags here and pocket and little medallions. And, you know, tiny little postcards that I made and some more corner tucks and a bookmark and all that stuff. This is kind of referred to as ephemera loosely, even though it's not literally vintage items. But let's see. So anytime you have something like this, I would print on cardstock because you want it to be a little bit thicker. And pockets don't have to be cardstock, but doesn't hurt if they are either. So, and then I've got these in this kit. This is what is referred to as a belly band. And a belly band basically just gets, you glue the top and the bottom if you want it to go vertically like this. And then you tuck things in there, like these journal cards. I plan on using this as a belly band, and then I'll tuck these journal cards in there. A belly band can also go this way, and then you just tuck things like that. So that's a belly band. And then here, this is probably truer to ephemera because these are actual vintage French receipts, and I, of course, embellished them with a pattern and some more beautiful vintage roses. But this is definitely truer to ephemera, the word ephemera. And then, the little envelopes. Those are fun. And what I did for all of these, I double printed them as well. But now on the envelopes, I did not use cardstock or 28-pound paper. I just used regular copy paper, which I believe is 20 pound or 24 pound. So it's thinner. I want it to be able to fold this easily. There's no reason for it to be thick. It's just a little envelope. So I printed this on just regular copy paper. I printed this on regular copy paper. You don't have to print them on envelopes. I like to print the other side as well, because when you open it up, the flap has a pretty design as well. I didn't really need to print on the back, but I just kind of wanted to. And that's the beauty of junk journaling. Like I said, there's no right or wrong. You do what you want. You do what feels good to you. I printed on the back of that as well. Someone can use this as a journal. Definitely the one with the lines. They can, write little notes or something there on the back. This is light enough where someone can just write on here as well. On tags, a lot of people use tags as journal spots. So this one, you could write on the back. It's kind of designed. We can always put just maybe like a scrap piece of coffee dyed paper or whatever paper that's maybe a little bit more blank, and just put that on the back so that you can write on that. Again, no right or wrong, whatever works for you. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I have a new printer, which I love. It's a LaserJet printer, and my prints are very crisp and clear and beautiful. But for some reason, it does not give me the option anymore, like my old printer did, to print borderless. So, which makes me kind of sad. So I've got this white edge here on everything I print, which is, it's okay. It's not unto death. But I don't want that showing in my journal. So I'm just going to trim all of these white edges down. And then I'm going to go ahead and trim my coffee dyed paper to be the same size, because I do like having the different size papers in between, but the bulk of it, I do want it to be the same size. Again, that's just my preference. So let's just see, just for kicks and giggles here, let's see how the finished size will be. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 10 5/8 wide. 10 5/8 wide, and 8 and just a hair over 8 and an 8. So there you have it. That's what I'm going to trim these down to. Oh, another trick. When you do print double-sided, print one side. I would do it one page at a time. So let me see if I can, and this will probably be very hard to show you on video. I don't think you'll be able to see, but I'll explain to you. You print your first whatever sheet you want, print it at 100% on your printer. And every printer is a little bit different, so I can't tell you exact steps. You'll have to play with your printer a little bit and just kind of figure out the ins and outs of it. But basically speaking, you'll print one page out at, say, 100%, right? And then you print it out, stick it back in the printer so that the tops will match. And then when you choose your next page, instead of 100%, like knock it down 1, maybe 2%. I think 1 works the best for me. And again, your printer may be a little bit different. So when I print this out, I'll print it out at 99%. And then when it prints out, there's going to be a little bit of grace when you cut. So, because nothing's going to line up perfectly ever. Even with a printer, paper will shift a little bit. And if you print them both out at the same, say 100%, one of them is always going to have a little bit more, there's going to be like say you cut here. If you flip it over, there'll be, a pretty wide white border still maybe because something shifted the second time around. So when you reduce one side just by a percentage, it gives you a little bit of wiggle room. So what you'll want to do, and you can't see this, I'm going to have to hold it up to the light, and you won't be able to see it on camera, but I will hold it up to the light, and whichever one is slightly smaller, because I'll be able to see you just a little bit where the other one is a little bit larger, I'll take the smaller side and cut that one. That way, the goal is to not have any white edges. Again, if you have some, it's not the worst thing in the world. You can always ink around the edges, which I tend to do anyway, but I just don't want a huge white stripe. But I'm going to be inking the edges of my paper anyway. But I want to minimize the chances of just a big swath of white showing. So I am going to go ahead and cut these out. You can use your scissors, or you can use a paper cutter like this. This is a guillotine cutter. This one does not work. It's a little bit, I love this one, but it's not quite big enough to use for a full sheet of paper. It works on this side, but it's not quite big enough for that. So you could either get, and I actually have a full-size guillotine cutter over on the other side of the room, which is probably what I'll be using. So that's an option. Or I have another cutter. Let me grab that real quick and show you. This one will cut a full-size sheet. Oops, here we go. And this is actually, it kind of doubles as a scoreboard and a cutter. Let me see. Let me raise this up a little bit so you can see the whole thing. So you'll see these little grooves, and this is called a scoreboard. And whenever you want to kind of make a little indentation in your paper to make it fold easier, that's what you use. But this little puppy also doubles as a paper trimmer as well, like this. And it's big enough where I could fit a whole sheet. I'm not going to use this one simply because my blade seems to be a little bit dull, and I keep forgetting to go buy a new blade. So I don't want to rip my paper. So I'm just going to go use my my big girl guillotine cutter, and I will trim all of these papers, all of the journal pages, which is actually only 6, right? Yeah. There's only 6 journal pages, so I will, no, sorry, 8. I can't count. There's 8, so that won't take me too long. And then I did not mention these 2 pages. These are what I used. These are in the kit. They are what I'm calling the backing pages. That's what I used to print on the back side of these. But I also went ahead and just printed them single-sided on regular copy paper because I kind of wanted them a little bit thinner. And the reason I did that is because I will be using these to decorate the pages as well. You'll see when we start getting into the embellishments. I'm just going to, rip it because I like the rough edges. So I'll be making just, random shapes of ripped paper, and we'll use that to decorate the pages too. And so I just printed these backing pages out on just regular cheap copy paper, so it's nice and thin. And I don't know, it'll give me some flexibility and some more toys to play with when I get to that point. All right, so I'm going to go cut these real quick, and I will be right back. All right, I'm back, and I decided to, in addition to my 4 pages of digital papers, I cut out 4 matching sizes of the coffee stain paper, which will give me a total of 8. And I told you I usually like about 6, between 6 and 10. So 8 is a good even number. So this will give us a nice decent sized signature. So then basically I'm just going to decide which one I want as my first page. And I think I like that to be my opening page. So I will just fold this, and I'm going to alternate between the 2, digital kit and coffee paper, digital kit, coffee paper. All right, and this is a bone folder. And this comes in very handy when you want to smooth out creases like this. And this one actually needs to be cleaned. I accidentally kind of got it goopy with glue. See if I can pull it off. There we go. I'm not sure what happened there. I'm not sure what that is. I'll have to work on that later. So anyway, and you can get these on Amazon. This is a Martha Stewart one. I think I got this from Hobby Lobby. Anyway, it's called a bone folder, and it is definitely a must-have for paper crafting. So I'm going to go ahead and just fold each of these and stick them all together when I'm done. Okay, there you have it. This is a signature. And you can see here now that I've got more, now that I have more pages, you can kind of see what I'm talking about where, the inner pages kind of start poking out more. And it kind of comes to a point, I guess you can say, when you're going this way. And whether that bothers you or not is completely up to you. I keep changing my mind about it. Sometimes it bothers me, sometimes it doesn't. I'm probably going to try to even it up just a little bit. And just speaking from experience, I've tried to do that on my guillotine cutter, and it did not go well. It's a little bit too thick. So the papers end up ripping a little bit. So I think what I'll do, I'll just cut it by hand. And again, it's probably not going to be 100% even. And to be honest, my guillotine cutter isn't completely square either, I've noticed. It's always off just a little bit. And the perfectionist in me used to really have a problem with that. But junk journaling has actually helped me let some things go. It doesn't have to be perfect. Actually, embracing the imperfections is a really good thing to do in junk journaling because, it's just, you're, first of all, reusing things and you're just making something pretty out of ordinary items. And far be it from perfect, I think it's part of the charm. So there's some things I still get pretty picky about, but some things I've just learned to let go, and it's okay. And if things aren't exactly perfect, it's okay. But I do want to trim this off a little bit. So what I'm going to do, something that is a good idea, especially when you're working with a bundle of paper like that. As I'm cutting, I don't want it to shift, so I'm just going to use some paper. Clothespins here. Maybe I'll use another one in the middle. So it's kind of like a third hand for me, that can keep everything in place while I kind of concentrate on this. So I'm just going to do this by hand, you guys. And I know it's not going to be perfect, but it'll kind of take the ones that are hanging out there the most, kind of take them down a notch just a little bit, so it's not quite as pronounced, and it'll be just fine. And there are rulers. Actually, I have one. It's called a deckled edge. You can kind of see how the edges are very uneven. This is a little bit larger and this is smaller. You can actually rip the edges of your paper so that they're rough like this, which is a really neat look. And I've also recently discovered that there are paper cutters, like the guillotine cutter, that have that edge. So you can just do the guillotine cutter and it cuts a really nice, it doesn't tear it, but it cuts a torn design in it. And that's pretty neat looking too. I actually like that a lot. I don't have a guillotine cutter like that yet. Not sure I need one, but I like the concept. So let's see. I think I have a little hanger off here. I'm going to try to get that smoothed out just a little bit. Okay, I think I feel a little bit better about that. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a little bit more even. So we're going to leave it at that. And I can always trim a little bit down more later. So that is, let me put it that way, that is the gist of a signature. Now I'm going to go ahead and ink around, like I said. I'm not going to do it with the coffee stain paper, I don't think. Again, I can always change my mind. But I'm going to go ahead and ink around the edges of all of the printed papers, just to kind of help give them that finished look. Again, completely up to you, not a requirement. I just think it makes things look more vintagey and just kind of looks a little bit more finished. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'll probably use walnut stain. Always tends to be the one I always go back to. Vintage photo is another favorite of mine. Let's play a little bit. Grab some scrap paper and get my brown brush, and let me get off whatever may be on there. And this is just a makeup brush. I got this off Amazon. It's for makeup, but I've used these for my inks, and they came in different colors. Here, they came in these 5 different colors, and I just kind of coordinated the ink colors with with the handle colors. Orange is the brown, and I will use that for black as well sometimes. But brown is what I use the most. It just, I'm just drawn to it. Just adds so much warmth and depth to projects. I just love it. So I usually just stick with brown. But let's see, and there's so many shades of brown. There's so many shades of brown. So let's just play with vintage photo here. Let me see. It's kind of has a little bit of a yellow tinge to it. Not bad. And let me see. I think I have another brown that I got recently that I haven't played with much yet. Okay, here's tea dye, gathered twigs. That's the one I was thinking about. All right, so that's vintage photo. Gathered twigs. Okay, that has almost kind of more of a greenish, more yellow, maybe a little bit on the verge of green. Okay. And then tea dye, I'm going to guess is a little bit more orange. Yep. Definitely a little bit more orange. Okay. And then good old walnut stain, which is just a really beautiful. Sorry, I think I'm shaking the table, shaking the camera. Whoops. All right. Walnut brown or walnut stain. Yeah, that's just a really nice dark brown. Okay. So let me see which one I think I would like the best with these pages. I'm thinking either the vintage photo or the walnut stain. Still going to be my winners on this instance here. I'm going to stick with the walnut stain. Yep. It's always good to experiment, but I just kind of confirmed what I already was thinking. So let me put these guys away. I will use those for another project on another day. They're beautiful. They're all just beautiful colors. This needs to, be the right one for the project you're working with. So that's what I will do. I will go ahead and ink the design papers, and I'll just do them like this. There are other applicators as well. You can get usually like in the craft stores where you see the ink pads, they'll have like these little cotton daubers, and they're kind of like on a wooden handle, kind of like this, but then there's like a felt piece on the end, and you can use that. A lot of people use those. I really like these. If we're doing like more blending, these seem to be a little bit more smooth. So that's just my preference. Again, just my preference. Nothing says that you can't use. And actually, I have this. I've used a black. I needed to get some black and some tight little corners on something, so I just use this old makeup sponge. You could definitely use that too. It doesn't have to be a fancy paper crafting tool, It can just be whatever will help keep your hands a little clean. It looks like I was a little off on this fold. Let me see here if I can fix that. It's off just a little bit. And again, it doesn't have to be exactamundo, but so that's just the gist of it. I'm going to do that on this side as well. So this is going to be how I leave it. I realized that I ended up ending on the coffee stain paper instead of a design paper, which I usually like to have the center signature, have it be something kind of interesting. So I'm gonna leave that for now. I may add some kind of an embellishment that is kind of like a center spread, or I may just maybe swap things around and have one of these be the center and end up starting with a coffee stained paper. We'll see. We'll play around with that a little bit later. So I am going to add my book page. I'm going to add a book page there. And I think I have, yes, I have a few different size books here. So I'm going to do a few different pages like this. This one I'm going to fold like this. I mean, it really, you really don't have to have any rhyme or reason to it, honestly. I'm going to do that just to add a little bit of interest. Maybe stick that one there. And let me get one more book size. Let's see. Oh yes, this one's cool. It's actually a what is it? A manual Greek lexicon of the New Testament. So it has some really cool writing in it. It's all like Greek and Hebrew, I think. And this one is not going to tear very easily. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut it with my X-Acto knife. This is X-Acto knife is another good thing to have. This is kind of like a little special X-Acto knife. Not your. I have a regular one too. You know, it's not this is fine too, but if you're going to be doing a lot of X-Acto cutting, I've noticed this is nice. It cradles your finger nicely. So I tend to grab this one first. So I'm just going to use this because I do want a little bit cleaner cut here, because I know from experience this book does not rip very well. So we'll just leave it like that. And actually, you know what? Now that I've cut it out, I'm gonna cut it with my, because there's a bit of a curve to the page, and I don't want that. I want it to be flat. So let's just get rid of that curvature there. And then I think I will just fold this one like this. And you know what else I want to do? I want to ink these edges too real quick here. I don't feel compelled to ink the coffee stain pages because they're already, I don't know, there's a lot of, the dark patterns on there, which are nice. I don't feel like I need to add to that. I certainly could, but I think I'll leave it for this case. And something about inking, it doesn't have to be perfect. Actually, I think it adds more character when the edges have, some places are thicker, some places are thinner. I think it really adds to the vintage look. So when it comes to inking, it's probably one of the areas that I intentionally get a little bit sloppy because it just adds character, I think. If you're into the vintage thing. If you're not into the vintage thing, then this may not be what you want to do with your journal, and that is totally fine. I like to get the edges or the corners. I like to get them a little bit extra inked up sometimes, just to kind of mimic a really old page, So let me see. Let me get this guy. Where do I want to put him? I think I'll just put him here. Oh, you know what? I need to do this side too. I need to do this side because I'm going to see both sides, right? You know what? I'm really liking how the deckled or the torn edge is looking on here. So I'm going to mimic that. I'm going to mimic that on this side by using my little ruler. So let's play with this a little bit. Let's play with it a little bit. Let's see. I think I'll use the little, and I don't need to do much. I don't want to get too carried away into the page, but I do need to have enough where it'll grab. So let's see. Get a good pressure here, especially on the corner. Start out. It wants to slip. Wants to slip away from me, but ooh, I like that already. Let's see. If I had more to deal with, it would rip easier, but I don't want to rip that much. Kind of doing this backwards. I'm kind of doing it backwards, but you know what? I like to say where there's a will, there's a way. And I certainly could have ripped it by hand too, which actually I may finish doing this one part because I'm really trying to get such a tiny piece off that the ruler is wanting to slip. If I were to do it like, in the middle, it would rip great. But it was kind of an afterthought, and it's just a very small amount of space that I'm trying to work with. So, but I do like how that looks. So this one, I like how that looks. So I'm going to go ahead and just re-ink that. I'm going to do the same thing with this. This edge is already torn. Whoops. And I have a little bit more to work with here. So I don't need this to be a specific size. So I'm just going to do this. I think this will grab this. And this page is so thin. It's a very thin paper. So I shouldn't have too much trouble doing two at once. There we go. See how nice that went? Much better because I had a little bit more to grab. And I'll do the same thing here. Again, here I'm dealing with a little bit less space, but let's see. Nope, almost part of it. Hang on. There we go. Okay, not so bad. Okay, beautiful. I like it. Okay, so here we have our signature. And this is a pretty nice space. There's lots of space to journal. And it also kind of depends on what your purpose of your journal will be. If you really will be doing a lot of journaling, then you want to make sure to leave, lots of space to write. A lot of my kits have pages that have lines in them already, or they're just blank. I tend to not journal as much, but I just like to have a lot of pretty little moving parts. So it really depends on what you're looking for, what your purposes will be. So here's just a quick little flip through of what we've done. Right. Not bad, not bad. See, I'm still debating about whether, I think I kind of want this to be my center when I open it up. I think that's what I'm going to do. Yep. Which means that unless I print another sheet out, it means that my first page will be coffee stained paper. But you know what? I'm fine with that too. I think I'm just going to leave it like that. And we'll add this little guy somewhere like here. Like that. Yeah. I like it. I like it. I like it. All right. So that is where I will end part 1 because I don't want to overwhelm you. So this is the signature, the very basics of a signature. Okay. I hope that was helpful. Stay tuned for part 2, where I will get more into the embellishments and using pockets and tucks and belly bands and all that good stuff. Okay. All right. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.